Welcome to Dynamics of Dialogue, your one-stop shop for peace and love on the airwaves, a safe space for people of color and our allies. Join us every week as we have real dialogue with people going through real life. Your dynamic, your dialogue. Come get some. Welcome to Dynamics of Dialogue, and this is your host, Rebel Queen, and I'm here in the studio today with El Lachey.
Good afternoon.
And we are here today talking about escaping your own toxicity. It's a deep topic, you know. I think a lot of us don't have conversations where we really explore how toxic we are. Hey, how toxic are you today?
Today, what did I do today? I think I might have read a gossip blog.
Right, you know. Yeah. We don't have those kind of conversations. So, but I think it's important. Another reason why we create this kind of space where we can have growth, because without having space to examine ourselves, in ways that we live. I'm a fan of self-help books, but I think that it's important. Representation matters. I learn better from from a cultural perspective about what toxicity looks like. You know, I think it matters. Don't you think so? Because that's what we talked about in what we from last week, appreciative inquiry. Mm-hmm. Right. The cultural perspective matters. So for me, I like hearing from another black woman, you know, what that looked like, because then I did that shit last week. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's one of the things that help, you know, being able to hear different perspectives, because you don't realize your behavior is toxic until you see a different normal.
Right. A different normal.
And you're like, wait, maybe you don't have to do it this way.
Right. But it's a different normal, but it's familiar to you. It's something that you've seen before. Mm-hmm. You can relate to it. So you're like, oh man, yeah, I get it. It makes sense. You know, it's one of the reasons why I wrote this poem. Conversations like this, you know, conversations with my girlfriends, you know, we talk about our experiences just like this, right? You know, how many of us had these conversations? You know, we bond with our girlfriends. You know, girl, he did that to you. What? That fuck? You know? Yeah. You know, we had these conversations, and we learn from our own experiences, and we learn from what our girlfriends go through. And I'm one of those people that carry that with me. So I wrote this poem a couple of years ago called Another You. And I wanted to share it today and kick the show off with it, because it's really when I first started exploring my own toxicity. It's a multi-layered poem. You know, I posted it out for everybody to see on OfficialDofD and Rebel Queen the Poet page on Instagram and Facebook, because I wanted y'all to be able to break this down. You know, poetry to me is a great thing. It's a great tool to, hey, yeah, that's dope, you know, snap, snap. But I also like to write my poetry to make you think, you know. It's self-reflective. And if it's a part of my journey, I know it's a part of somebody else's journey too. So this poem is multi-layered. On one end, she's looking at her anger with this dude, you know, that did her wrong. And that's usually what most people see, you know. And then on the other end, she's only lightly looking at the fact that she gave him so much, but she's not really acknowledging the fact that she had a responsibility to walk away. And then she became toxic to herself by not walking away from this relationship. You know, I posed it in on OfficialDofD just by saying, you know, right, even, you know, for the Bible believing folks, you know, you don't want to cast your pearls to swine. It's like you're tossing out your pretty pearls to these pigs and you expecting them to toss you back some diamonds. It's a pig. It's going to give you pork. In this case, eggplant. You know, you know, you got to be wise. Yeah, eggplant. I know, right? I keep my day job. You know, so this poem is called Another You. Don't you see me standing right here holding your fucking bags? How in the hell are you going to tell me I'm never there for you when I'm standing right here? I just loaned you money last week. I sucked your, and you nutted in my mouth and I swallowed that shit, but I don't do anything for you. No woman swallows your jizz because she like how that shit tastes. I cook you healthy food, but you out there eating fucking cheeseburgers every day. And then you want to come home and regurgitate that nonsense in my mouth. But I do it because I'm trying to be your woman. I'm trying to keep you from going somewhere else to get your needs met. So you stay in my bed, stay in my life, because you're in my heart right now. But you keep telling me I'm nowhere to be found. Now what in the hell kind of shit is that? I wash your clothes. I care for you when you sick. I keep the secret you would never want your boys to know. I get mad as hell at you, but I never tell your boys that you like to be my bitch in the bedroom and you throw your legs up when I go down. Listen, clown, I've been trying to be good to you for the longest, but you can't ever say anything good to me, about me, for me, in my direction, in my space, or in my place, because you ain't even trying to see me for who I am. You can't see me because you too busy trying to get pussy on the side, telling me a million lies about what the fuck you was doing last night. You say I'm angry all the time? You damn right I am. You ask me for my time, my attention, my affection. And then when you get it, you just want to hit it. It was so good you forgot I had something else to offer. I'm not just a hot box. I'm a hot fox with brains and no chains and a heart made from gold who treats her man like a king. And you mean to tell me that shit don't even earn me a ring? Man, get your cock-blocking ass out of here. Yes, I called you a cock-blocker because you taking up another man's space in my bed. You taking all this golden goodness I gave you. You take my loyalty and trust and use it to keep me locked away in the prison you designed for me. Because you don't want me, but you don't want anyone else to have me. So you keep dangling carrots in my face to get me to stay, but you'll never speak the words I long to hear. Will you marry me ain't nowhere in sight. So despite the fact that I've had your back in multiple ways on multiple days, you only want one thing. All my beauty, splendor, wit, and intelligence is left unattended to. Shit, even my head game ain't get no claim, cause you still ain't locked me down. And if you ain't into me like that, then I really am single. So it's time to mingle. And it's really too bad, cause I promise you, you won't find another me. Rebel Queen.
Man.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's take a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
And reflect on the passion that which this poem was just delivered. I felt that shit.
Thank you.
Yeah, I felt it.
Mm.
There have been so many situations. First thing, before you even read the poem, you said the person in the poem had a responsibility, a duty to self, to walk away from that relationship instead of figuring out how to work around the toxicity that was coming. You kind of swim through the toxicity.
Yeah.
Like you're swimming through sludge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got it. But you really should just get out the water.
It's toxic water. The water is green.
The water is green.
The water is green.
3-headed fish coming up.
Your feet, your toenails done turned black, sis. And you still swimming in the water. I was still swimming in the water. The path of least resistance is to get out the water. Why swim against the tide?
And all you're doing is hurting yourself.
That's all I was doing.
I like the line about how the partner was a cock blocker.
Cock blocker.
You are cock blocking another man.
That's right. The man that's supposed to be in my bed.
The man that's supposed to be here. You are cock blocking him.
That's right.
You're
I need you to move this cuck out the way
You
so
are a
I can
hater.
get the next one. The one that's supposed to be here.
The one that actually values my opinion.
The one that values my opinion.
Values
That's
my
right.
presence.
That's the penis. That's not.
He's not here because you're here.
That's right.
Hating, trying to keep me in the prison.
Mm-hmm. Because you don't want me.
You don't necessarily.
But you don't want anyone else to have me. I know you sisters feel me.
How many of us are in relationship limbo?
Do you know how many dudes from college have confessed to me that they wouldn't even date me in college just because of who my baby daddy was? Cock blocking.
Wow.
Block.
They do. They block. They do. They have their ways. Or like you be on the phone.
Didn't want me. Did not want anything to do with me. I didn't tell you about the time that he came and he took my date home, right? I told you that he came to my house to a party that I had. He was invited, right? Because it was for his, I'm telling, because whatever. But it's whatever right now. Because I done read the poem and now.
It's whatever.
It's whatever right now after I done read the poem. But he done came, and then he took my date home. He took my date.
Make sure he got home safely.
He made sure my date got home safely, and then he came back to check on me.
Yeah, make sure you're safe.
To make sure I was okay.
It's the levels of control and manipulation that we subject ourselves to
for no
as
reason.
Individuals. I'm not even going to say women because the women are some great gaslighters. So I'm not going to just say the women, but there are different levels of manipulation that when you feel like you need to be in a relationship, you accept.
That we accept, exactly. Because I accepted it.
Whether you want it or not, you'll accept it.
And I'm going to be very clear. All of that vitriol that y'all just heard come up in my voice, all of that was because of that anger really was with myself because I accepted that shit. You know, but I was a kid. I was 20, 21. I didn't know. I should have, you know. But at this age now, we know better. We know better. We learn from life. We learn from these experiences. There's an article in medium.com. But see, part of it is just being able to learn and then being able to identify. I think it's one thing to have these experiences. It's another thing to learn from them. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I think there was a meme, I think I posted maybe about a month ago that said, it's about growth. Going from, why does this keep happening to me, to what is this trying to teach me? Right? So, yes. Going along that line, I was reading an article on medium.com and they kind of provided a list, I'm only going to share a little bit with you, a partial list of toxic behaviors. Ways to recognize it is criticizing people as a means of controlling them, picking apart things people share with you about their lives rather than expressing happiness for them. You know, remember I had to call myself out on that because I felt like I did that to you, Lachey.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to call myself out on that because it was really something that I was feeling about me. And I was picking apart, and it was a brilliant ass fucking idea. You know,
we'll talk more about that later.
We'll talk about it later. But it was
share with y'all soon.
Right, you know, it was a brilliant idea, but I'm picking it apart, and I had to really take a minute and be transparent about myself. Now, how can I admit that? Because I'm healing and I'm forgiving myself. That's a part of escaping your own toxicity.
I do want to say, I don't want you to think that I looked at the conversation as toxic. That's why when you said it, I was like, oh, okay. But for you to perceive that, you know,
it's a behavior. See, for me though, it's a toxic pattern in me. Mm-hmm. I had to recognize that I had toxic patterns of thinking that involve ways of projecting my unhappiness or my indecisiveness about something on someone else. And so there may be, so like you know how I am, but maybe another person would have perceived that differently. So although you may not have taken it personally, another person may have. So, but I am responsible for checking myself every time.
And I just thought it was your analytical mind. I was like, oh, okay, well, here's the solution. You know, that's all I thought. Yeah. But for you to let me know, I really wasn't aware. And if you wouldn't have told me that, I wouldn't have been aware. So I do appreciate that conversation. And I really just looked at it like, oh, okay, this is Ty talking about, you know.
Yeah, good.
Stuff we talk about.
Thank you. Good. See, it's good and healthy, I think, to be able to have conversations like that. Because, you know, some of your friends are more accepting, like Lachey is more accepting of my analytical mind, whereas other people hate it. Oh, well, fuck y'all.
but having that, being able to have that alternate way of thinking shapes ideas, you know. And
right.
It's not that it's when you recognize that behavior or the pattern of thinking, not necessarily behavior. When you recognize that pattern of thinking, it does create balance because you can't just have situations where you're not looking at both sides. It does create more of a balanced decision making process, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But to recognize, okay, this is why I have this pattern of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's different.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. I mentioned, do you mind?
Yeah,
What is it?
Okay.
There's a book, like I was just talking about. I thought that was a really great segue, a great point to bring that conversation between you and I up, because it's a great exercise in escaping your own toxicity, and where the responsibility lies. I'm a person that I try to stay away. I've learned to move away from blame into taking responsibility. So this is a book I'm reading called The Language of Letting Go, Daily Meditations on Codependency, and it's by Melody Beattie. Really excellent book. And I'm going to share with you I reference it because I'm going to share with you today's meditation. It's really brief, but I think it's significant enough that you may want to go check it out and get it for yourselves. Today, for December 16th, it's taking care of ourselves emotionally. And I chose today to read because I think it fits along with the theme of today's subject very well. What does it mean to take care of myself emotionally? I recognize when I'm feeling angry, and I accept that feeling without shame or blame. I recognize when I'm feeling hurt, and I accept those feelings without attempting to punish the source of my pain. I recognize and feel fear that when that emotion presents itself. I allow myself to feel happiness, joy, and love when those emotions are available. Taking care of myself means I've made a decision that it's okay to feel. Taking care of my emotions means that I allow myself to stay with the feeling until it's time to release it and go on to the next one. I recognize that sometimes my feelings can help point me towards reality, but sometimes my feelings are deceptive. They are important, but I do not have to let them control me. I can feel and think too. I talk to people about my feelings when it's appropriate and safe. I reach out for help or guidance if I get stuck in a particular emotion. I am open to the lessons my emotions may be trying to teach me. After I feel, accept, and release the feeling, I ask myself what it is I want or need to do to take care of myself. Taking care of myself emotionally means I value, treasure, explore, and cherish the emotional part of myself. And today's affirmation is, today I will take care of myself emotionally. I will be open to and accepting of the emotional part of myself and other people. I will strive for balance by combining emotions with reason, but I will not allow intellect to push the emotional part of myself away. Good, right?
Yeah, intellect, that's important.
Yes.
Because that's not always in alignment.
No. No, and I shared that because what it talks about is balancing your emotions and being able to accept what it is that you're feeling without shame or blame. Mm-hmm. That, I think, is where the toxicity lies. I think when you don't accept, like, just to go back a second to where I brought attention to where I was projecting my own negative feelings onto you, my doubts onto you. That doubt was my own lack of acceptance. This was my own shame. Mm-hmm. Remember? Okay. It was my own shame about the issue, and I'm projecting it onto you. I couldn't accept it. And so I'm talking to you, and I'm projecting that on you. So that's how now my toxicity. Now, again, you're a person, you know where I'm coming from, so you didn't even pick it up. But if you were a person that's more sensitive or maybe even a deep empath, it would have been more impactful to you. Mm. So that's how one person's toxicity gets to affect another person, and you don't even realize that you've done that to a person. You know, it doesn't make you a bad person, but it teaches you in this one passage, it just teaches you how to accept your emotion without shame or blame and just sit with that feeling. Don't do anything. You don't have to respond. You don't have to talk. You know, you cope with the feeling first. I think most of the time we feel the feeling and then girl, you know what this fool did to me? You know, first thing we do is react. We don't sit with the feeling. We just act. What do you do when you get? How do you respond when you get a bad feeling?
I try to sit on it. The issue I have is I sit too long. I need to figure out when to. And I've gotten better with it since I've been more able to label my feelings.
To name your feelings.
Yeah, because I can actually tell you about it if I know that I can describe the feeling. If I can't describe the feeling, I can't really talk about it. So then I'll sit, and then that turns into pressure, or more so anxiety. Now it's like, okay, well, when are you going to say something? Because you know you're not happy. And it's just festering and festering. But the key is to know how you're feeling, to be able to convey that, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're not conveying the message of how you feel, and it gets misinterpreted because you still don't have a solution there. You know, your needs are still not met, your issue is still an issue,
and the whole time you're sitting on your emotions because
right.
you're kind of
And
disconnected. You're not dealing with it.
Yeah, you're just not dealing with it. You know something needs to be dealt with, something needs to happen, but it doesn't.
So, and it doesn't really help to blame yourself, right? Because it's not a fault that you can't. There's a reason why you're disconnected from your emotions, that you're kind of shut down. You can't name it, right? You mentioned that you had to really kind of name.
Oh yeah, to be able to communicate to self first and another person how you're feeling. It's like, there's been situations just with even in the past month that I've had to really reflect on myself and step out of myself and say, okay, so are you okay with this or not? And if so, why are you not okay with it?
Yeah.
But if you are, why are you okay with it? And I had to really examine that because I wasn't sure if that was coming from a place of, true desire.
Yeah. Or
if it was necessarily in alignment with myself and what my goals were. I had to really reflect. Is this something you like? Because you like it, or have you been conditioned to like it? No, you don't really want to do this, so stop doing it. Or, okay, no, you do like to do this. This is something that's a part of you. So it's okay to do. Embrace that. And I've noticed, as a woman, it's more difficult to deal in spaces without shame and guilt because we blame each other.
Oh, that right there. That right there.
We blame each other and shame each other all day long.
Oh, women, that's right. We blame and shame not just women, but we do it to everybody. It's the whole community. Everybody, and and I can't help. Can I just talk about it again one more time? This morning I posted a video of Cardi B out there queening, telling everybody, listen,
me and my husband
y'all stop. Y'all don't keep doing the fuck shit, because at the end of the day, that's still my baby daddy. That's still my family, and it doesn't make me feel any better.
Tell you what you want about Cardi. She out here hey, y'all sit down.
I love me some Cardi B.
Y'all can't tell me nothing bad about Cardi.
You cannot tell me nothing. I love me some Cardi B,
nothing
man.
Bad about Cardi B.
Yo, my homegirl was out there on Instagram last week talking about how she like cheese and how she's so funny. She like, it goes straight to my eyes.
She's so stupid. She is just crazy. Hold on, I saw a real funny Facebook status I want to read to you.
It goes straight to my eyes. I love her. She is so. There's nothing she can say that would just really piss me off.
I want to share this status from my beautiful friend Soror Jade Lucas. She posted roughly an hour or so ago. Bitches ain't got a carnation all year talking about what they won't accept from Offset. Keep your essays, we don't care. End quote. This is Jade Lucas on 106.3 in Chicago, your afternoon lady.
Wow.
But
wow.
I have to say I agree with that. I'm seeing is women talking about all this toxicity about what this woman should do about her family. And yes, okay, it's the public eye and people are subject to scrutiny, and I get that. Whoop-de-woo. However, you are still putting up with your baby daddy's side baby mama. You're still doing it. You have not found your king yet. Because you won't settle. Because you haven't dealt with your own toxicity.
We do this to each other, and we just won't allow each other to just be. Because at the end of the day, we have all been there. All been there. That's why I wrote that poem. I said, when I talked about pride, I said, she don't know him. Screw that hoe. She don't know him like I do.
How are you mad at a young black family for wanting to save it? Why are you that mad? Why are you that? I don't understand it. I'm team trap families all day, okay?
I am so not promoting staying cheating, but
no,
come on.
No, we're promoting understanding and healing and acceptance, and yes, he messed up. We don't know whether he had that threesome or not, and frankly, we shouldn't care because we're not married to them. It's up for discussion. I get it, but what I'm saying is these conversations put our own feelings on the table, and it makes people process what happened to them.
They're
and what they won't talk, because that's what I keep saying. I wouldn't tolerate this. It's like, well, you don't have to. Why are you so
this is about It's and it's exactly, that's a perfect example of what we just talked about. How people are, they're taking what their own personal feelings are and they're projecting onto this couple. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the majority of these women out there know exactly what it's like. Culture ain't but a couple of. How old is Culture?
Culture, I think she had a baby in June.
Right? She ain't but a couple of months old. I mean, I remember what it was like. The situation I just talked about, my baby daddy, my son was only a couple of months old. That's why I put up with that shit. Because I wanted to make it work.
Because you would have been shamed if you didn't. You'd have left your husband.
And I would have been shamed if I didn't. And there was a good man. There was a really handsome PK, good job. He was down for me. He was ready to go toe to toe. And he wanted to step in and take the place. He wanted to be my man. He wanted to be there for my son. But I didn't follow that path. And he wanted to be a dad. But I didn't follow that path because I was being shamed because he wasn't my son's father. Because of the expectations. You see what I'm saying? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, what would have been better? For my son to have a man that wanted to be there. That man used to put his hand on my belly and talk to Omari.
Oh, wow.
And so I allowed that shame, the pressure, just like, Cardi B, all this pressure she getting,
I appreciate the fact that she's willing to stand up to it and say, leave my family alone.
And she's sensitive.
She
just had the baby.
Song, she wrote that song. You know that song.
She's sensitive.
When I listened to that song, I was like, I hope he don't hurt her.
Man,
she a Libra. She love different.
Yeah, she's sensitive right now. After you have a baby, you're not even, your hormones, it's just going to take you a while to get back. So everybody and every woman that has had a child knows that.
And let's be clear, people, your deal breakers are not everyone's deal breaker.
Right, man.
Okay, what's a deal breaker for me is not a deal breaker for you. But what's a deal breaker for you, quite possibly, might not be one for me.
Right.
Things that I'll put up with, you won't, and things that I won't put up with, you will.
But and it's so true. But I think that we got to look at the root of why we do this, right?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a definite root as to why we get stuck in this blame. And I know for me, as I have learned and dealt with my toxicity, my anger, that came from my anger. Carried a lot of anger. And I'm still working through it. Got a lot of anger. So it takes a lot of time to work through. But a lot of that came from being in a toxic family.
Oh, yeah.
Coming from a toxic family. And I didn't know that I came from a toxic family until well into adulthood. I never even heard the term toxic family until a couple of years ago.
It's normal. Most African American families, like we're born into families that encourage beating children.
And they will argue
and this is the way to go.
And they will argue you down that your child needs a...
Yes, but we don't understand that because it's our normal. That's our normal. And we're not really versed in coping with child behavior other than the beatings that we've been
and putting
receiving.
Your kids out when they turn 18.
And that too, teaching them how to be on their own.
And we don't teach them how to be on their own.
We just put them out. And we have them in codependent situations until they're 18.
We don't teach them the principles of ownership. What is the most difficult? Key. We teach everything that is theirs. We teach them. Well, that's mine. That's mine. I did that because that's what I knew, and I had to undo. I've spent at least the past 10 years having to learn how to undo that crazy ass shit, But we teach them, this is mine. This is mine. Everything you have is mine, and then when they leave, okay, now you go get yours, and we've never taught them how to get theirs,
right?
And so I
told them don't speak, don't talk about how you feel. Are you crying? Shut up.
all of these things, so that's how we're not recognizing how we pass that on to our kids,
and how it makes children it makes it difficult for them to speak,
and it makes it difficult for them to go into environments and be successful and compete successfully amongst people in other cultures, where they're not so tightly restricted. And I understand it is part of that for us as a black tax. I think it's difficult to talk about us being this way without acknowledging that. That would be a disservice, because all of that comes. There's a reason.
Oh yeah,
there's a root.
Even the sexual trauma and abuse from families. We were bred into abuse. That is how we learn. Generational. We talk about the effects of slavery all the time, but we don't really reflect on currently how it's still affecting us. And that's one of the ways we are trained to abuse our offspring, whether it's emotionally, psychologically, sometimes physically, sexually. That's behavior that was taught and learned. So in order to heal from that, we have to realize when we're being toxic, or when we've picked up behaviors from our toxic parents or another toxic family member, when we learn that way to love. So now we're seeking that toxic love in partners, because that's the love we've learned, and that's the love we're used to, until we figure out, okay, this is the point where I stop that, and this is where I need to start healing. This is not what true love looks like for me. I love myself more than to accept this. I don't like the way you're speaking to me. Like, I noticed I would talk to guys who spoke to me the way I felt my mother did. Mm-hmm. I was used to, when I started actually reflecting on the language, I'm like, this is familiar, because this is the love that I was shown all my life. And then when I spoke to her about it, I don't really like how, I struggle with my hair. Like, my mother hates my afro. Mm-hmm. Hates it. And when I got to the root of why, it had nothing to do with me. It was because that's just, my father had an afro, and I look more like him. That has nothing to do with, that has nothing to do with me or my person. That's just how my hair came out. But that's toxic, and I had to really explain.
Your hair would come out like that because you're your father's child, and of course you would have his genetic traits.
And she picked that.
Right. That's
so. Whatever the case may be, I had to she didn't really understand, but that toxicity comes from generations of being trained to have long, silky, curly hair, because that's what was accepted in the house for so long. That's what we saw for so long. So that's your standard of beauty, and so subconsciously.
So for her, and I can imagine, because you've got the fair skin.
I'm not supposed to have this hair afro that I've been rocking.
I get it.
She didn't realize.
I see.
She did not realize. I had to really explain to her, this is really toxic that you're telling me my hair is not right the way it comes out of my head.
Yeah.
You have to really understand that. I'm going to rock this hair fro.
Right.
and you're going to love it.
Right. And gonna love me.
but she honestly didn't. My mom has real soft, real soft hair, and she was. We always get into these good hair debates, but she hated her hair because she couldn't have the styles like the finger waves and the French roll and the stuff I could rock because my hair was kinky.
And think about the generation, the era that these folks came up in. So there definitely there's a root to all of this. Some of it comes from that. So there is that, and I know part of mine. I don't know, did I say that already? Escaping abusive parents? Abusive father?
On it a bit, but...
escaping an abusive father. I know, so when I talked about, that's what I meant to. I wanted to go into the trust. I noticed that I would project a lot of trust issues onto other people. Mm-hmm. Particularly men. I think I had a lot of that, trust issues with men because of that, escaping. I can't tell you how many nights, my mom had to round us up in the middle of the night, me and my brother throwing our clothes in a garbage bag, and we're fleeing the house, going to a motel, because dad's going batshit crazy, and that really does something to you, because that becomes your normal. Your life is disrupted at any minute because this man just explodes. You kind of lose trust. Yeah. It sends a message about the instability, and the messages I got from her, about trust. You can't trust them. You need to always have for yourself. Of course, I would get that kind of message from her because of look at the situation she's dealing with. She's packing her kids up and, but the difference is that, again, just like the poem, we're going to go back to Another You, even though there wasn't physical abuse in that poem, she's still going back. She had a responsibility to leave. She's still going back. So here you go, and Rebel Queen, she gets old, she's 47, she's in relationships, and she's realizing, why don't I just fucking leave? I'm still in the relationship. But it's so, and I didn't realize on a subconscious level, because this is what I witnessed as a kid. Some of these things we don't recognize as toxicity because this is what we saw as normal. Some people would see that and be like, well, I saw my mom keep going back and I said I'd never go back. But then, my parents' divorce went through on my 18th birthday. So I don't know. It just, for me, it just seemed it was a normal, because that's what I saw on both sides of my family. Mm-hmm. I didn't see nobody getting divorced, and it was dysfunctional as fuck. I mean, when I say, and I think I'll tell this story. I mean, I know when my dad would go crazy, my aunt and uncle would come out from the Bronx, Webster Avenue, y'all. They would come up, I'd throw up their hands for Webster Avenue, and they would come out, my aunt would come out with a hatchet. And my uncle had, remember I told you, and the bat, no, they wasn't playing. They'd drive all the way out from the Bronx with the hatchet in the bat. And this was normal. And every time my mom would come, this was my normal. So in my brain, everybody's brain gets wired differently, and people think differently. And, here it is, as an adult, I had to realize this is behavior. I was contributing to my own toxicity. I was in this pattern because of something I perceived as normal. And I didn't even recognize something as simple as having the power to get up and walk away. We talked about, what's that, your favorite poem for Colored Girls?
Oh, man. Y'all, stop giving away your stuff. Just keep your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep your stuff. You can't really get upset with somebody when you gave away your stuff. Protect your stuff. I can't really say it another way, but that's something I've learned. I was upset with people for the way they treated me, but I was really more upset at the way I allowed myself to be treated, and I should have just moved around. And whenever I walked away, I was so much happier.
Mm-hmm.
So much happier. You just protect your stuff. I hope that you value your stuff enough to, and I'm not just, saying physical stuff, I'm saying spiritual stuff, emotional stuff. You take a lot of shots through the day from people who are toxic. You have to have your shield up. You have to recognize that behavior, dodge it, steer clear. Sometimes you might have to swim through the waves. But as soon as you can hop out that water, that's for your job. You got this toxic job. Your boss coming up here gaslighting every day. Telling you that the grass is green. Telling you the grass is blue when you know it's green. And you know you got to keep going back for the kids. Just protect your stuff.
Protect your stuff. But how do you know? I mean, again, how do you? If this is not a conversation that you've had, I mean, it took me a lot of years to be able to see that. Why couldn't I see my way out of those things? So if you're a person that you haven't even had that conversation, how do you know how would you even begin to recognize your own toxic behavior?
Okay. So in my opinion, well, not my opinion, my situation, when I left my toxic relationship, I let a man run me for 7 years. Finally left him, mothered him. That's something that I do want to touch base on a little bit in a further conversation. The beautiful poem we just read, goes heavily into mothering and how it still didn't get the rain. So we're going to go further into that in a different conversation. But when I was single, I got into my zone, And it took me to be with somebody to see me vulnerable day to day, to call me out on my toxicity. Because it was my normal. I didn't realize I was treating other people that way. And I didn't realize I was not connecting. And other people, having conversations with Rebel Queen and others who were aware of their own journey, that helped being able to sort out the behavior and understand where it came from. Being able to talk to other people. And I will say in all of the toxic relationships I've been in, I've always had at least one woman, whether it was a mother, an aunt, a sister, a cousin, there was at least one woman in that man's family that held me accountable for how I was treating myself. And I value these women until the day I die because they helped me grow. Even if I was just with these people to have these self-conversations with these queens, I always had somebody. There was always somebody who made sure I was okay.
Yeah.
Because they went through it themselves and they saw what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I think it's a different generation, a different age too. I know when I was growing up, there were you kind of made me reflect a little bit, because there were people. It was an age where there were people that would say, they would make sure that you were okay, even though we had stuff like that going on. Like case in point, stuff would go crazy. Well, my aunt and uncle would come out. Well, no, I can't say it's not like that now. But I knew there was more of a sense even in the community. You feel what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah, where it was like,
as much as women shame each other, we support each other when it's time.
That's what I'm trying to say. So, like, even if it was Sally Ann on a corner that screwed Betty's husband last week, when Betty's husband died, Sally Ann, everybody showed up. Mm-hmm. If something happened, everybody still showed up. There was still a sense of community. We still knew that we were what we had, and there was this. I think that we were able to maintain one another in that way, and things are a little bit different now. I think because we have so much access to other things that we don't need each other in that way so much anymore. Listen, we wanted to make sure that we cover. I hope that we've covered a lot of how to recognize the toxicity, what it looks like, the root of it, the origins, how it can happen in families, why. We want to still get to cover how to get out of it. So we got a little deeper into it today than we originally intended, but that's still a good thing. So we're going to come back with part 2 next week, and we're going to finish getting into some of the techniques, talking about soul retrieval, talking about meditating, all these different things that we do to kind of get out of it. Because a lot of it is going to involve healing from the difficult things that we've experienced, and forgiving ourselves for things that we've done. Like we talked about, a lot of the reason why I know for me, why I exhibited toxicity was because of unresolved feelings that I carried. So really, the first stop is yourself. So we always challenge you to look internally and do better in that regard. Before we would go, I want to ask Lachey, you have any parting thoughts?
I was always looking forward to this show. I think the healing starts with self, as you discussed several times. Mm-hmm. But being able to recognize that you're making decisions that you used to make, and see yourself make different ones, and notice that you're not the same person you were when you were treating yourself in a negative way. Being able to reflect on yourself and be in the moment and know that you're making healthy decisions for you is amazing. Yeah. Just pick you.
Always pick you.
Even when you're faced in adversity. So I do think spiritually we have a limited understanding of heaven and hell. Mm-hmm. Hell is negativity, and we're dodging that every day. So protect your spirit when you see toxicity, whether it's in you or somebody else. Just pick you.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that next week. We have Adria Kitchens coming on, and she'll be discussing feminine power life coaching. And then in the new year, we'll be taking a break after that, so we'll be coming back to you in the new year with part 2. And then we'll be also beginning with part 2 of Escaping Your Own Toxicity. And then we'll be coming back to you with some more great topics. So in the meantime, check us out every week. 3 o'clock, we post a new episode. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our show. Tune in every Sunday at 3 p.m. at OfficialDofD.com. Follow us on social media at OfficialDofD. Your dynamic, your dialogue. Come get some.